some kid just graduated. I think he'll be all right.
Yes. He was telling me it was going to rain. Oh, yes? Well, I got to Robert to
Ben's trying to run down the side door to let him in.
I had to wait on Stephanie.
I don't think so. Christine?
It might run.
I just got off the beach.
Nothing was coming off on vacation. Because Hawaii and Florida, sure don't.
Me?
Yeah.
What kind of story you want? I can turn the tail.
The wood chipper.
Yeah. That's a 30-year-old with finger and wrist. Repair some old damage.
All right, that's almost started. Mark, the Monday night crowd was full of UGA journalists. And we got a lot of phone calls back about the fire departments.
Yeah.
We brought up the certification of the new group. I think Monday, I know I fielded 6 different calls from 6 different kids that were writing stories on UGA, and then one of them wanted to know about the different fundraisers, so we sent out an email with all the chief's phone numbers so they can find out when they're coming up. They want to start running them on the UGA site for fundraising stuff. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was really good. I mean, it was really good. It was pretty inspiring too, because I know they did reach out to a couple of chiefs, because they called me and said, "Do you know anything about this person?" Called me. I'm like, "Yeah, I know who called you." All right. Coleman's got that thing going on now, and then Holes is tomorrow, right? And Holes tomorrow?
Yeah, that's an hour.
I have no idea. I have
No,
no
she's
idea.
not going.
Okay.
So we're
ready.
Anyway, we're supposed to be getting scared. All right, we can go ahead and start.
Thank you.
Welcome everybody to the Madison County Board of Commissioners special call meeting, public meeting room, May 2nd at 5 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. This meeting is a joint meeting between the IDBA and the Board of Commissioners. If there's any statements or remarks from anybody on the agenda, please make those now. If not, we'll move into the discussion. Economic Development Guidelines for Madison County. Looks like, Christina, did you put these together, or Ben?
I did. So the documents in your packet are from when the 2 boards put together an Economic Development Committee. The UGA facilitated several committee meetings, and these are the finalized documents that come out of that meeting. Oh,
Also,
sorry.
I should have said this before we started. Brian has a predetermined place he's got to be at 6 p.m. So don't take it personal if he gets up and leaves. We already know about it.
Yep. So in your job description, or in your packet, is the job description, and then there is a 2-year action plan, first 2-year action plan that is provided. And then just other helpful information that I thought would be useful is the comprehensive plan map and a 20 or 30-year timeline from Georgia DOT for development.
Christina, you probably, just while we're all in the room, advise both boards on what we found out from DOT recently, that is the next 20-year plan, basically 20-year plan for Highway 98, 29.
So the last page in your packet is projects that the Georgia Department of Transportation has planned or has hopes to do for Madison County specifically. So you can see through there's bridge replacements, roundabouts, widening projects. Some of those have committed funding, and then some do not. So like towards the bottom, you can see where they're talking about Highway 98 and some State Route 8, 106 that they're planning on doing widening on, hoping to do widening on. So I thought that would be productive and important to put in the packet for economic development, so the developer will kind of know what the state is planning on doing as far as the major corridors in the county.
To go just a little bit deeper than that, it's really not on here because it was all verbal in an email, but it's not to send the public into mass panic, because, I mean, I know you need to print this, but it's nothing coming tomorrow, probably not in 5 or 10 years, but there is talks from DOT to widen Highway 98 and Highway 29. I don't think any of them consisted of a 4-lane, but they are talking about doing some 3-laning additions to both Highway 98 and 29.
The years are like 2031 and 2051, so they're very far out.
Yeah.
And these are not dedicated, there's funds that are already allocated for this. So, with knowing that 2031 and 2051, our future comprehensive plan will change accordingly, based off of what GDOT's telling us now. So, just so everybody's clear.
So, what are we trying to accomplish in this meeting?
So the goal is here is to, well, for one, just to get this information to you all, but secondly, and probably more importantly, is from Ben's concept of what this is going to look like. Mark, David, and Gene's not with us, but from what their vision of what this economic development role is going to look like from their perspective, and to see what the Board of Commissioners' expectation for this role also is going to look like moving forward. We all know that this needs to be a collaborative effort amongst multiple groups. I mean, this economic development role is going to play a part in the school system, it'll play a part in the chamber, it'll play a part in a lot more areas than just economic development. Those are all key players in the economic development roles. So, Ben, if you'd like to give us some of your potential thoughts on questions that maybe the BOC can help you answer. And also, Susan is in the room because we found out some more information that'll try to answer some of maybe Ben's questions later as he gets down the list, in case you're all wondering. Susan's here.
Yeah, sure thing. And thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners. I know this is a big step for us to take. It's one we've been talking about for quite some time now, and so naturally, with such I think it will be a big change. It's going to lead us in the direction I believe we all want to go, but naturally, we also have maybe some hesitation or reservations, whatever the case may be. But when most of us participated in this, committee that produced these two documents, one being the job description, the other being the action plan. I don't think these are necessarily for us to live and die by, but they do provide us a great foundation, primarily the job description. I used this job description. I tailored it a little bit just as an example, right, education and experience, where it says bachelor's degree required. I did it with an MBA. I mean, I left the bachelor's degree, but changed the master's level education and with that economic development certification to preferred, right? I don't want to, didn't want to limit anything, wanted to kind of spread it out a little bit, other kind of some key word changes. Going to talk about knowledge of local government, planning and zoning process, right? Like some of that is very specific knowledge. So instead of like a pure knowledge of it, I just adjusted the language to familiarity with. And someone who's worked in local government may be familiar with it, but they may not have dealt with it, specifically anyway, just because that is a very specific skill set, outside of the economic development portion. So just some small tweaks. And that came from seeking just advisement from surrounding counties and other people who are doing it and doing it well, I believe. And so I advertised this. I got a decent amount of interest. We took steps. I screened them. I spoke to them. We've had a handful come speak to us. We think we have good qualified candidates for the role, and a part of that today is just to speak further into that and hopefully put us all at ease that it is okay for us to take that next step, and kind of jump right in. And then with this action plan, right, I mean, this is a great blueprint for us. I know there's some conversations about, like, what is this person going to do? Are we ready to guide them? And I think this is a great starting point for them to come in, get familiar with our county if they're not already, spend some time getting to know the key decision makers, things of that, really get to know the county more than they might already do. And then from there, I see the role not as me or our board holding their hand, but I see them coming in and looking at this action plan and being like, okay, I can get this done in the first 90 days, or I'm going to take, the first 6 months, et cetera, or after some time telling us, based on the infrastructure you have, based on the population, demographics, workforce development, et cetera, here's what, as an economic developer, I believe our focus areas or target industries should be. And then our collective groups together, knowing the background of the county and kind of what we hope to see over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, can provide that guidance at that point as to, okay, well, this may not fit totally what we view Madison County as, but these others do, or, let's start, scrap that, let's regroup a little bit. But I really see this position as someone coming in, not for us to hold their hand, but for them to come to us and almost tell us what we should be focused on, given, just what our goals are as a county, from the land use plan, the comprehensive plan, just, again, the same words, workforce development, demographics, infrastructure availability, where we want to go with the infrastructure, right? I mean, they may see something that just our natural involvement in the county we just may not have recognized yet. And so I say all that to say, I really hope we can take that next step, because with the hesitation, to some degree, we don't know, we're limiting ourselves by not taking that, and I don't want to use the word chance, but it's not a chance, it's just, everyone, both rooms, both boards have worked tirelessly and very hard. We all remember a few years ago, working through, keeping, the ship on course, so to speak, and getting to this point here, where now I think we're ready to take a step forward. There's lots of meetings going on across the state. I mean, this is that time of year. There's several economic development conferences, both, regionally, statewide, even even southeastern, and giving ourselves a seat at those tables or in those rooms. We don't know what we don't know at this moment, and I'll use the block plant that's up for discussion, and just as an example, right? Like our relationship with Clark County in that example, that ended up coming down and coming through the chairman and y'all's table. But I mean, this time last year, Athens Clark County and the relationship I have with their director, she reached out and just said, hey, these people are looking, y'all were on their radar. Like, not sure if they'll reach out or whatever the case is, but like having those relationships in place, and likewise needing to expand upon that, right? Like, we need to get beyond Athens Clark and get around with our other neighbors, just to be aware, right? I mean, we don't know, some counties who may have high capacity with their infrastructure, such as water and sewer, and there's a low capacity user looking, and they maybe only want high capacity industry. And here we are in a position to really cater to some, I guess, low capacity users, and not being a part of those relationships or those tables, just what is floating around out there and what we have the opportunity. Not saying I think Madison County is eager, we're hungry, we would like to see some development, but we're not, just looking to take anything and everything. But again, we don't know who's looking, what they may need, and just being a part of those conversations, I think this is like a first big step of being a part of that. Now, you're looking at these BOT projects, and I think that's really exciting, because you look at the land use map, and like a lot of that, is like, it makes me feel good because, I feel like the money well spent on the group who came in and did this, right? You look at what they're planning to do over the next 10, 20 years, and it falls pretty much right in line. I know 98's always needed to have some passing lanes, but you look at the, 29 there, going from 106 down, that's right in the heart of, an area that we know is prime for future development and stuff like that. So, I'm speaking, just generic, obviously Mark and David can speak up if they would like to. But in this role, I just personally feel we're ready to do it. Worst case scenario to me is simply someone comes in, maybe it turns out it's not the best fit, but we don't know if we don't try. And in the end, a year from now, maybe we have to have this same discussion again. No offense to any of us in this room, but it would not be the first time that all of us have gathered to talk about the same thing multiple times as far as trying to get it to move forward anyway. So, I say all that, I'm open from y'all's table, any questions, just as far as maybe, Todd mentioned kind of vision or strategy, I guess. And I've always thought, you can have a vision, you can have a strategy, but then after all that, I guess there's the discipline to make all of it happen. And right now, I feel like that discipline is in. We're all in positions to make decisions, and I feel like that's the step we're at, like having that discipline to know when you're at the place to be like, okay, we gotta act now and keep going. So, very simply, my vision for this is reverting back to the original charter of the IDBA, which is to provide, economic and industrial development, for the benefit of Madison County and its residents. And I think, very simply put, I don't think there's much a change required of that for us to take this step and really start building that foundation for years to come. This position, where we are in proximity to Atlanta, very realistically, I was real with our board. I said this to the chairman. This could be someone's stepping stone. It comes in as an elevated role for them. They use it, and they may go on, right? We can't help, we don't have the tax base, and we can't compete with the metro area as far as maybe what they can offer or salary and other benefits of that nature. But I'm personally okay with that. You get someone coming in here who's eager to work and provide a very good, solid foundation, it just makes it that much easier for the next person to come in and keep that going. So I'm not, worried about maybe someone's potential tenure. Obviously, I would like to see them be a part of it, long enough to provide us a strong foundation. But at the end of the day, I'm ready to get started. I feel like this is the best place to do it, and, you know, that, I guess that's kind of my pitch for you. I just think we've all worked too hard and too long to just, kick the can any further, so to speak.
I would add a couple of things to that. Number one, there was no anticipation that the candidates we talked to did not understand the makeup of our county, how important the rural, the agricultural piece is, but also how important it is that we have a response to what's headed our way. And while this individual really is sort of a lone practitioner, if you will, we as a board have an obligation to give him guidance. And in every case, we emphasized how important developing a strategic plan on his part is, which he can't do until he or she can't do until they spent 60 and 90 days every day learning about this county, understanding how we're governed, and also what comes out of that individual in terms of opportunities. It's not going to be hidden from you as a county commissioners. The things that we need to make sure you're abreast of, that we have your opinion on, because this individual is going to very heavily rely on us, all of us, to make sure he's successful. And that doesn't mean you have to manage him. That kind of falls on us, in fact, totally falls on us. But I was impressed with the candidates we had, and I think they do understand enough about the county to hit the ground running, but I don't think any of them expect to walk in here in 30 days with a list of 50 opportunities. It's going to take development. It's going to take input from all of us to make that successful. And Ben's right. This probably is someone 1 to 3 years, if he's great at it, or he or she is great at it, they're going to get picked off. But that's not bad for our county, for what can be developed. It also sets it up that we're headed this way, and we believe in developing the people that we bring in to lead. So it's not easy. And I would say in my business experience, every time I hired someone, it shouldn't be news to you. It's a 50-50 proposition.
Sure.
You don't know what you got until you start, really what you got until you start working with that person. So that's the risk side of it, but I think we're prepared to take that risk to the board.
In the interview process, since we already, and forgive me, but we're looking for somebody relatively early in their career. This is going to be a stepping stone, career builder. One of the things, hopefully, that it will be where you guys at with the interview process today. Are you ready to make a recommendation?
Well, what we would like to do is, if anyone at this table is interested, is we have two that we would like to request come back, and if any of you all would like to join that, quote, final round, just from the commissioner standpoint, be able to offer some questions, just speak to them from a different perspective from the Development Authority, just from the commissioner's table, then we welcome that. If not, we will still, our Development Authority Board will still go ahead and have them come back for a final round, and then discuss to make our ultimately our decision at that point. But we would love to have, I know the chairman was involved, but I mean, just any of you are welcome to come and ask questions. If you want to designate somebody, I mean, that's totally
Your candidates have had the opportunity to look at the job description and
yes.
go.
Yes. And like David mentioned, we do believe like they could step in, right? I mean, different candidates, different strengths. Both seem very capable, but as you would expect, right? I mean, different people, just a few different characteristics about themselves, potentially maybe how they would approach it. But we don't see really any cons to their different approaches or maybe different styles at the moment. But we'd like to talk to them again. Naturally, that first in person was probably a little more broad in nature, getting to know them a little bit, with some of their backgrounds, experience, and so what I'd like to see us do with this second round and with y'all's participation is really kind of drill into maybe more specific items or examples, scenarios, whatever, that might be what they could experience here in the county, or just how they might handle something, maybe what they would go after. Really, at this point, I would expect them all to be doing their research on us. You know, they're all aware of the comp plan. They all know where to find it on the website. So really kind of diving into that and really trying to get some good feedback from them on that.
Yeah, they're not wet behind the ears.
I think since it seems to be the norm, I mean, for me personally, that typically I see a 3-interview process now. I'd like to participate in the 3rd interview, because by that time, and I'm not going to say someone's going to walk in and have all the answers, but at least by then they'll know what the questions are. Right. You know, and that way, if they do a presentation that I can listen to based on what the information we have here, and they can provide us what their vision is for the next year, 2 years, I don't think we can look beyond 3, because we'll be in another election cycle then, and who knows what's going to happen in an election year. But I think realistically, if you bring a candidate before us and say that, you know, we think, and here again, it's everybody's best guess, but we think this is the one that best serves where we're at and what we need today. And let us ask a handful of questions, then personally, I think with the competency and the leadership of our IDEA, the maturity that we have on that board, and the variety of backgrounds that we have on our board, I personally would feel comfortable with the recommendation y'all brought to us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because I would dare say that there's not another IDBA or business development group or whatever you want to call it in the state that has as diverse a background as we do at this time. And I would feel, well, personally, I would feel comfortable.
Well, speaking of recommendations, if anyone else has anything before I kind of jump into.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm, in case I have to leave, but I think it's good, and I think we ought to proceed here, and I'll just put in my 2 cents. I think that Frank here, if he's willing, ought to be, you know, part of the interviews, because a lot of that, potentially, a lot of that's going to occur over there in that area. He knows it well, and I think that would be, so.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, as y'all fished around, as you promoted this opportunity, did you get interest from people with a degree of experience?
Yeah, I mean, both, you know, 2 of the candidates that I guess ended up really standing out, both have master's level education, very, you know, specific experience working with local government, doing almost like, I mean, maybe not exactly economic development, but a very close relative of it, so to speak, you know, in a way, like on that fringe of really helping guide and work on things. Good workforce development background, things that, you know, right in the county, a good understanding of when you're courting a potential industry and or organization, you know, they want to know where their workforce is going to come from, and having that experience in that workforce development, being able to work with the Broad River Academy and Athens Tech and the university, and already having some of those relationships in place to be able to allow us to benefit from was certainly attractive. But yes, no, I mean, there was I didn't know what to expect when we figured it out. And it was a wide array of different experiences, background, education levels.
Geographically, too.
And geographically, too. We had out of state, Atlanta, looking to kind of, move, local, I mean, all kinds of, I suppose it was very refreshing to see. I was a little nervous, you think being on the border of Athens, Clark County sometimes, maybe, we don't advertise our jobs out there the same way some of the surrounding counties do, so I just wasn't sure what we might get or what to expect, but it was a good applicant pool.
I did just one comment in general. This may be more for us than it is for y'all. I'm like Brian, I'm ready to move on forward. The job summary, this position serves as the primary representative of economic development. I think that's critical. And I think for that to work like it should, obviously we have to have a degree of confidence, but it's going to require some letting go from us. And I say, hallelujah.
Well,
get us the right person.
And for us too, right? Because, for the last couple of years, the board is what it's been.
Yeah.
And so, I would agree. I'm ready to, be able to, I guess, hand the reins over to someone else in a way that I can dedicate the time it needs for the county to get the full benefit of it.
And obviously, I understand there needs to be a warm-up period. Whoever it is needs to understand thoroughly who we are, who the county is, what the expectations are. But that I expect him to expect me to be ready to turn loose the reins and let him or her do his job.
That's right. And there's going to be a lot of collaboration still, because, right, at the end of the day, anything that comes to the county that has to be rezoned ends up in front of you all for the final say. And I would imagine this position, how far in the weeds we get with it, I guess that'll be, how far we let it go. But, right, I would imagine, to some sense, an economic developer coming in here at that meeting of y'all's and giving their analysis on the overall project that might help determine the outcome of that potential rezone, and if it truly fits the needs of the county and the land use plan, et cetera, that just gives you guys another tool in your belt to make a decision on.
If we'd looking in the past, one of the things I'm excited about going ahead is looking in the past, if we'd had someone to do the pre-work, understand it, and come forward, just like even the potential that you talked about out there, and looking at that, and I don't want to talk just specifically a whole lot about it, but, I think it's a good industry for the county, might not be the right place. And so somebody that's coming in and approach, maybe, they can do some work to maybe change the location or something, or find a different location. So that's the kind of time. So I think it would be great to.
Yeah, there's a degree of maturity that I want to feel comfortable with in exactly the situation that we're talking about. Somebody looks at that and says, if we're thinking about this property, it's going to require a rezone. We may be trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Here are some other options. And then if it gets to the rezone, then but I want somebody with the maturity to see that up front.
That's right.
And again, for us to feel confident, you've got the reins.
That's for someone to know when someone's asking about a potential parcel and a potential part of the county, being like I would just hold off on that, right? That has
we want you here.
A low probability to get through, so let's find something else. Before you get to the point, there's already a lot of work done and things of that nature. Now, if you don't mind, Dennis mentioned a recommendation on a candidate, and that kind of spins me into the idea of how, I guess, the employment in a way would be structured. Meaning, in the past, right, the IDBA had employees who were dedicated to water. They had an IDBA, like a retirement-sponsored plan through APCG. I believe they had access to the county, or at least were able to get under county medical. But moving forward with some of the things we've worked through recently, trying to determine if this person, if it'd be a benefit as far as like overall package, if you think about it, if they should be a county employee that, in a sense, reports to the IDBA. So I guess structured, I guess kind of like the DA's office. And I guess what I mean by that is if we have to provide medical insurance, that's going to be a very expensive cost to the IDBA to provide a plan for a single person. We wouldn't be qualified for a group plan, because a single person, is not a group, I guess. But or we have the possibility to provide other means to make up for that. Same idea with the IDBA 401A plan that's in existence. If we're going to have people under us, and that's great, we can leave that active. They can enroll in it. They can get that benefit. However, if there's a better opportunity to make them simply a county employee, and that would give us, the development authority, some guidance on what to do with that 401A plan, if we should terminate it, if we should leave it open. You've got things like workers' comp insurance policies and other things that we have that are active because of the former setup under the water department, making sure all those employees are covered. But if we bring someone under, then sure, some of those plans and policies will need to stay in place. But if not, then they're just some housekeeping items, so to speak, that we can clean up, depending on just the potential structure of how that employment, I guess, where it would be, who would employ them. Reporting, obviously, we could draw it up where the IDBA would report to the IDBA and maintain its, I guess, separation from the BOC, but however, utilizing the county's employment, I guess, process and structure.
Yeah.
If I worded that okay or not, I was trying to.
And we talked about this during the interview process, a little bit in between people, was putting together, okay, so what kind of package are we going to offer? Is it going to be, medical, dental, retirement, salary, vehicle, whatever? And knowing, we were trying to figure out what we could offer, what we couldn't offer. But really, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, Ben, but I want to ask a question right quick. Just want to back up just a second right before this topic. And Mark, if you don't mind, take off of where Ben and David both was, of what you're envisioning out of your 39 years here, and you've seen in the county, and what you saw come and go, and what we need to avoid of trying to work that partnership for the economic development. I'd like to hear your take on it.
Well, I would salute Terry on the comment about us being unified all in the same direction and funneling all the bites to the same place. Mm-hmm. And that person needs to be, have a feel for something that will fly or something that won't fly, and not bring in, things that are just going to be so controversial that it's just not worth it. But foster the things that are attractive to Madison County, and then try to, there's maybe not a right place for everything, but a better place for most things. And having that feel for what Madison County wants, and not chasing things that won't work, and is a big deal. And, but I think the biggest thing is getting all the bites to that person, and letting them see, where it fits in Madison County, or if it does fit or doesn't fit, And I think we're not going to go anywhere until we start. We may have to change directions a time or two to get it honed in, but we got to start somewhere in the attempt to attract things to improve the tax base and employment opportunities and things like that. I think that's it should have been our goal all along. We spent a lot of time on other things, and it's time to get on track and
and move on with it. But, it has to have the trust of everybody involved that we're moving in the right direction, and that whether it's the BOC that gets the inquiry or the industrial authority has got somebody there to answer the phone and ask the right questions when it rings, or the Chamber of Commerce that somebody inquires, that we get it all to the right place and try to, move forward.
Yeah, it's a good point, because communication is the key to it, and making sure that person, all those are funneled, through that person, and we let them take the reins with it, even though it might be something that, we have some little personal little,
share with everybody.
Share it, but you can share, but make sure it is funneled through that person. They're the ones to do that, and, make sure they're on the get-go, and from the get-go on that, and I agree with that. And that's one of the bad things is before, and as I've seen ever since I've been a commissioner, we didn't have good communication between us and the IGBA. And we need to still have that amongst the board here, but also that person that is hired. And anything that we've got like that definitely needs to be brought forward. And
The only thing, I guess, that if this person ultimately becomes a county employee, in every sense, it would be then, in every sense of the word, they are a county employee, and we don't generate a situation like we've had a couple of times that we stumbled across as there were personnel changes. This person is not going to be an exception to the rule of all the other county employees, please, because there's no way I could endorse that, if that makes sense. We can't cut a special deal for them.
We're gonna be able to handle that in just a second, because we got some, pretty definitive answers from Mike Pruitt, the auditor, and the insurance as to what we can and can't do.
Okay.
And Mark, I do concur, and I do applaud, I love Terry's comment. In my lifetime, I've actually paid attention to Madison County politics for 30 years. Some of y'all paid attention to it a little longer. Well, we've not always done the wrong thing, but we've always not been on the same page that we let the room dictate the actions of the Board of Commissioners. And all I'm going to say is I'm going to stand behind the individual that we hire to do his very best work, but also to protect the citizen too. But I'm not going to let a re-election or politics steer a business. It has done it in years past. We've saw it multiple times. I can name 5 now that we all know that we didn't land. And it was because it was in somebody's district and they were scared of re-election. I'm not scared of re-election. And I don't want any board member to be scared of re-election. Frank's is in a situation right now, and Frank is a very good friend of mine. I'm going to respect Frank's decision on how he votes for his district. But I would ask the rest of the board to value the votes of their districts. And that's what we have to do collectively as a group. On any topic, if the district was in Terry's district, and Terry needed to say, I just don't feel comfortable with it in my district, but overall it's the right thing to do for the masses, then I would stand with Terry's decision to do a denial, even though we really truly needed it. We are in a little bit of complex times from a tax purpose. We 4 years rolled the mill rate back. The school board is now, for the first time in the history of Madison County, come to the table willing to discuss 70 and older exemptions of some sort. I want to make sure that that's clear. It takes money to offset that. We have to have sacrifices to make that happen. In order to project a better outcome for the future, we have to have sacrifices of ourselves. And sometimes we may actually sacrifice our job doing it. And maybe not. And I know it's a very short subject, and I'm not trying to pick it. Uncle Dennis down here. But the golf course was a hoopla mess. Until we voted on it, and it sort of went away. It did. It just went away. But it was a big deal at the time. It was very concerning at the time. The closest neighbor to that particular rezone, it was at every one of the meetings. He didn't say anything. He's a fine fellow. I love him to death. Now he's doing work on that golf course. Because they made friends with their neighbors. Maybe not all their neighbors. But that's what ends up happening, is we get scared of the unknown. Part of it is our fault, that we don't have ordinances written, maybe, like defining what light industrial is versus what heavy industrial is. We just see the word industrial, and we think smokestacks and conveyor systems, you know, for days. Me and Derek Mill went the same way I went to Savannah last week, and you passed that big wood mill down there. Derek, you know the name of that thing we passed? Anyway, this is a monstrosity of a complex. It's probably sitting on 50 acres, and it's 50 acres of conveyor belts. That's heavy industrial. We have to define in our mind what it really is, so we don't scare the public, because we could scare them with just a word. I actually asked Christina something yesterday. I said, what would your definition of manufacturing versus industrial be? She was like, I said, if I ordered belts, if I had 30 employees and I ordered a roll of leather the size of this room's carpet, and I cut it into strips and drill holes in it, put a clip on it, is that manufacturing or is that industrial? Because we're manufacturing a product to sell. There's a big difference, and the public just gets so mixed up in what our vision of that is. We're going to be clear on that. We're going to have to set that for the new guy. We need to let him know what those boundaries are. You know?
But we're going to do that. So.
Oh, we're going to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the whole complex issue.
So anyway, thank you, Mark. Thank you all for your comments. Now, Susan, explain to us what we know now and what we can and cannot do for employees, because this will define that package, Ben.
So then you had mentioned the DA's office, and that was kind of what Todd brought to me when we started there. That's all going to change, I believe, because there was a new statute that sits out there that I think as we move into this new budget year, that's going to change how the two employees, there's only two over there, I think it's going to change how they are hired. They probably, more than likely, may go under the state. So that wasn't one that we could really compare because of that new statute. I've talked with the auditor, I spoke with the attorney, I tried to reach out to other counties, and I want everybody here to know, Madison County is not the only one in this little pickle that we feel like we're in and trying to figure out. There's lots of counties with IDBAs or IDAs that are feeling the same pressure. They're all trying to figure it out because things have changed. Everyone I've spoke with feels like, because the IDBA in their charter, they are set up as a corporation or a public. And so they have their own ID numbers, their own, they have how they operate and what their purpose is to operate in Madison County. And so they felt that we should keep everything separate, and that it should be looked at as an independent, because that's how the charter reads. It sets Madison County IDBA up as an independent. it gives you all the powers that you need to operate your business, just like the commissioners operate the county. In saying that, in the past, IDBA did have its own, it has its own EIN number, it had its own payroll IDs for state and DOL. It has, all of it there. It just has to be reactivated. I understand, I think that part is not as concerning for you guys as a benefit package, is trying to figure out the benefit part of it. I get that, because it is hard when you're small. You definitely already have your ACCG. It's still intact, it's active. I mean, it's just waiting for you guys to add someone. Insurance is a big one. I mean, because it's pricey and it's hard. I did speak with a broker that is very well known to this area, because Danielsville has had this man for, I don't know, Todd, what, 40 years. They've been small the whole time. And he's been there a long time, and he's helped them find different ways to make insurance work. So before everybody looks and just says, let's go back and make that a county employee, maybe it is that we go look at this and talk with him and see what he can offer, what could he offer, and make a package for this person. Because this person will come in, and it probably won't be too long down the road that you will be looking for somebody in an office. Even it might be part-time to start with, but it could still, yeah, I mean, it's going to grow. So maybe we explore that before we just go back to where we were at, where it was all, I mean, it just creates, like the auditor said, it creates this thing of when it comes time at the end of the year and they're trying to separate everything, it's much harder and it's much cleaner if we can all just keep it under one ID number. And I was like, okay, I understand. So
we even had to go all the way back and pull the resolution from 1965 to see the verbiage, because how that verbiage was written was really going to define what we could and could not do. The EIN number is really what messes us up more than anything.
Right. At the end of the day, I think having the opportunity with the county is a financial benefit for the development authority, as far as having to set up all the other things or locate them. You already have all those processes in place. So it's just if it made it easy for us, then sure, that's great. If separation or keeping it separate as now that we transitioned it more separate now is the way to go, then that's just something.
Well, there's also a plus to it too, though. And Mark probably runs it through his business. I don't know. I know I do, and my wife does. But the QuickBooks program, as long as you ain't got a lot of employees, is an easy deal if you're only paying one or two people.
Right.
It tells you the calculations. You just enter the state numbers in. It tells you withholdings, and it's a lot works better than if you had 10. So one's actually better, or 1.5, or possibly 2 or 3. It's still a pretty easy process. And for what me and Susan was talking about, okay, so do we offer this lump sum package? This is the dollar amount. Go find your own insurance. Or is it this dollar amount, and we're going to give you a stipend to potentially, because your spouse may have insurance, and we'll give you a stipend to help pay for that. That's something that we'll probably need to figure out as an IDBA as to how we want to approach that. All we know is, and it might be better that once Susan sets up a contact for the guy to meet with you and talk about what it will look like for just one employee, and if it don't work out, if we don't seem to be feasible, then we'll just look more of going the other way, of the stipend to go get your own and or whatever. But we know our options now, and that can be talked about, outside of this meeting.
In the discussion we had as committee, there was some discussion about them being a contract employee.
Mm-hmm. That'd be one way.
So that'd be one way. Just, not really a pleasant way to see this, I guess, but in an effort to keep this position from being politically influenced, I think the superior option would be for them to work for the IDBA period. That's just offers a degree of separation.
That's totally fine. It's just, for us, just exploring, the options,
And it may not be possible, through the flip way, can you contract with us to provide those benefits? Again, that's just a question you have to ask.
Yeah, we actually
Can you do that and then us pay them, us benefit them as a county employee, like a county employee, but they're, I just asked that.
I think the issue with that is, that's kind of what we ran into with the chamber. We get into when you're paying taxes and social security taxes and stuff, you're paying under the wrong EIN number.
Right.
We actually found, when Susan was saying that we're not the only ones, we actually called another county, the IBA, and was talking to them, and things that we had found out prior to that conversation, turns out that they have some stuff that they got wrong. And we had to inform them, and it was like, oh my God. Sort of mind-blowing at how many counties, if they were ever really checked, is in violation of a whole bunch of stuff. It's scary.
We learn from each other.
I'm sure Susan has already stated over there that she's offered help, so I'm sure that we can have some county resources to help get that set up.
That's my thought process.
Yeah.
I mean, because she's done it before, yeah, 100%, it's easier to let somebody that's done it.
And I appreciate that, Susan.
No, it's not a problem at all. And, you know, QuickBooks is a very inexpensive, but it's efficient to take care of your payroll needs.
Right.
Really easy. It doesn't take a lot of time. It does everything for you. It literally even files those taxes for you online. So you're not worried that something didn't get done.
So today, where I know we're approaching 6 o'clock, and Brian, please leave at your discretion, sir.
I'll say I'm gonna have to step out too, but obviously I trust Mark and David both with their background in hiring and firing and
I
everything.
think we're all leaving at 6 o'clock, so we still.
There you go.
I would say, I feel.
Their claim is gonna be wore off by the end, he's gonna need to find another one. But, you know, my intention today, to be honest, was to let Christina sort of narrate this thing, and I'm gonna give you the last 3 minutes to, what do you think from a third-party perspective?
Yeah, I think internally, me and Susan have had a lot of conversations. It's just, we're the ones that are staying, y'all are the ones that are coming in and out. So internally, it makes sense for that to be there. That's where it's supposed to be. They need to let us know when they hire somebody and who they hired and when we get to meet them. But what they pay, how they pay, what they drive, where they're working at, that's up to the IDA. That's how their charter was written, as a separate standalone entity, and they come to you and request funding. So I think Ben is spot on with us asking the economic developer if they could do presentations when we ask them on big zonings, especially when we're talking about commercial, business, industrial. I think that's appropriate. But yeah, I think Ben's got a really good idea of what needs to happen. I think David and Mark have been good counselors for Ben on that process. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
David, in closing, I know you've only been to 2 meetings, but thank you just for bringing that outside point of view. Like, I'm always at awe hearing Mark talk, because I think he's the smartest guy in the county on any given day. That's just my personal opinion. He is. But just having a whole different perspective, I appreciate it. You know, the IDBA board is, it is right. It's going in the right direction. I want to say thank you. And I do believe we can make this partnership. We just have to keep in the back of our mind, we know what social media is going to do. We know what Facebook's going to do. We hire a person and it gets out what this person pays or makes or whatever. It shouldn't matter, but the public's going to tear them apart. They just will. We have to support that. We have to say, no, we've done this. We've done this as a group. Yes, he works for the IDBA, but he has the support of the Board of Commissioners. And we done it. We agreed upon it. This is the best thing for you all, maybe not you personally. Sir, that's on Facebook. I'm referring to Facebook. You know what I mean? But we have to have that guy's back.
Absolutely.
All right,
It goes down to a real simple old adage, inspect what you expect.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's how I look at this. Whatever comes to us, we've got to inspect it before we can make any opinions on what we think it should be done. And it's really important that you as commissioners, and I'm not telling you how to do your job, because you already know how, but that inspection piece is really important.
I'm excited because, I wish we'd had this a long time ago, so somebody that could come and talk about these opportunities and have a handle on them before they all just sort of throw up or here in the middle of a meeting somewhere. You know what I mean?
Ben, do you think there's any risk of losing these potential candidates that there seems to be a good fit now? Got to backtrack and we're trying to figure out the package if it's all held within the IDBA umbrella.
I guess with any hiring process, in some sense, the longer it gets dragged out. I mean, the way I just try to be truthful with myself is that if they apply to our job, chances are they might be applying to other jobs if they're in that market to look. So just being realistic, right? I mean, Jackson County has a very similar role open. If they're looking at Madison County, chances are they've seen Jackson County too. So just trying to be real and honestly communicate with them. They're able and willing to, come back to do another round or a presentation, whatever we end up deciding that will look like. I was very upfront with them when it all started, just as, right, if you work with government, then the gears grind slowly sometimes. So just being, try to be upfront with that process, that if you don't hear from me for, a week or something, doesn't mean interest is lost or gone. It's just a matter of us working through the different steps we have to.
and to Ben's point there real quick, none of them were in need of a job.
That's right.
They were all employed. They were looking to better their situation or potentially just make a career change and or just move the environment, which was good. But all was employed in some capacity. Nobody's like, man, I really need to know by Tuesday.
Right.
There was no topic like that. So I think if we called any of the four back 3 weeks from now, I think we're still fine. But I think you'll be in touch with them prior to that. But I don't see that there's a fish on the line that we need to be hesitant. We spent 5 years deliberating good strategy moves, and we need to continue those good strategy moves. We know what knee-jerks get us.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
I just want to clarify for sure that we don't have any option for this person to be on the county's insurance.
As of right now,
Right now, they're saying we keep separate. But, if I need to go back and explore something else with one of them, I don't mind doing it.
Well, that's the only thing that really, they're withholding their Social Security, all that stuff's gonna cost you the same amount of money no matter who pays it.
yeah.
That's cut and dry. Insurance is a big ticket. And there's no way to buy insurance on a small scale that you're gonna have the coverage that you have on the county policy. It would cost you twice as much. It's all taxpayer money that's paying the bill.
Sure. Is that much you want to pay of it?
If that's an option, we need to explore it to the end.
Okay.
Not just take the easy way out, because when you hire a person, they may say, no, I want to be on my wife's insurance.
Yeah.
Or they may say, I need the insurance for my family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be a big deal on whether or not they take the job. But it would cost us at least 50% more, maybe double, to have an individual policy. And if this person were to have a family member that had a pre-existing condition, there's a good possibility you couldn't buy insurance for them. And that's more common than you think. So we just need to explore that and make sure. Everything else is just sort of cut and dry.
We'll spend
you can pay the same amount.
Or in the medical part.
You gotta get somebody to process it, but
I guess we could call Gloria.
Do what?
We could call Gloria.
Yeah.
They could, as like a separate
Yeah.
plan.
That's why I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, maybe we set up something and have the broker come out from Danielsville and just see what
Medical
he
wasn't
can do.
scaring me as bad as what the auditor was telling me. That's what scared me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, give me a couple days first.
Yeah.
you
And
take no first answer, you know?
Yeah.
I think you have a direct cell phone number, so you can,
Yeah.
you can
But
check
I mean,
on it.
Yeah.
you know, we just want, that's gonna be the biggest thing, and it may not be an issue at all, but I have seen it come back in 6 months down the road, they were under their wife's insurance or something, and then their wife decided to retire, and they wanna get on yours, and that's a
Well, there's lots
$15,000,
of
$20,000 ticket,
there's lots of events, things happen.
life event, that's right.
It happens. I mean, all of us can plan all we want, but we can't control what happens down the road.
Terry, you got something?
I was just gonna say, why can't we just talk to our provider and say, look, we've got this situation here.
Yeah.
We're gonna assume from your accounting, for the billing purposes, or for the cost purposes, that they're a county employee. However, we want you to write this policy as they're an employee of the IDBA.
And that's what Gloria, that's what her whole job is, that she could do maneuver all that stuff, yeah.
We'll know first.
And we can definitely explore that.
We'll know first week. Dennis, anything?
Yes, sir.
Terry?
Good.
Frank?
For the interviews, I'd be glad to sit in on them.
Okay.
I'll be available after Memorial Day during regular work hours. If y'all do them, I don't know, did y'all do interviews like during the normal, like 9 to 5?
We did.
Well, we actually done them on Good Friday.
Yeah.
Well, y'all was all filing interviews. Oh, that's right, yeah, that's right, you wasn't all, that's right.
But, sure. Yeah, it'll be fairly soon, we don't wanna, you know, drag it
Yeah,
out.
right.
But I don't think now that it's, you know, a little shorter list, that they would probably have any issue with, accommodating, an evening hour or something, you know, that'd be.
Or potentially Saturday morning or something.
I like it, I mean, even if it's like a Google Meet or Zoom, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd be glad to
If they're coming from a long way off, you know.
But at the same time, I don't want y'all to feel like that we're the ones really into it. I want this
No,
very much to be y'all's decision.
well, we're always open to input.
We'll listen.
All right, Derek, you got any questions, bud?
No, I mean, I just think they're running down you know, whether it's a fully independent employee, I think Mark, you're right, you know, the cost, you know, what that matrix looks like on the differential, or being a county employee, and structuring a contract back, you know.
It's solely funded by the taxpayers of Madison County.
I realize that, you know, and I know it's a paper trail, but if we can align that paper trail, I mean, I'd just like to know, like I said, I mean, if it's an extra, you know, if it's extra $5,000, and if that's what we're talking about, that's one thing. But if the ticket's, you know, $60,000, that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
we
just
just need to
need to figure
do
that
the best we can with what we got.
out. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, if there's nothing else, I'll ask to entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank y'all for coming.
Should be pretty good. I don't know how much that's, our immune system responding to something different.